I'll expand the script to meet the 3,500 4,000 word requirement while maintaining the same engaging style and structure. If you're planning to apply for an H-1B visa this year, stop everything you're doing right now, because what I'm about to tell you could make or break your entire American dream. The H-1B lottery system has completely changed for 2026, and if you don't understand these new rules, you could be throwing away your one chance to work in the United States. Registration opens in just a few weeks, and thousands of people have no idea what's coming. I'm talking about changes so significant that immigration attorneys are calling this the biggest overhaul of the H-1B program in decades. Before I go any further, let me ask you something. Are you really going to risk your future by not staying updated? Here's what I want you to do right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell because we're posting critical updates every single day that could literally save your visa status. Thousands of people lost their chance last year simply because they missed one important announcement. Don't let that be you. Subscribe right now so you never miss an update that could change your life. This is US Visa Info, your #1 source for the latest and most accurate immigration updates. Today we're breaking down the urgent H-1B lottery changes for 2026, and I need you to watch this video all the way to the end, because missing even one detail could cost you tens of thousands of dollars, or worse, your chance to live and work in America. The registration period opens on March 4th, 2026, and closes on March 19th, 2026. That's less than 3 weeks away. And if you're not prepared, you're already behind. This is extremely time-sensitive information that affects every single person hoping to work in the United States under H-1B status. Let me tell you something. The entire H-1B lottery system that you thought you knew doesn't exist anymore. Starting February 27, 2026, the Department of Homeland Security implemented a brand new rule that completely changes how H-1B visas are awarded. This isn't a small tweak or a minor update. This is a complete overhaul of the system, and it's going to affect every single person who wants to work in the United States on an H-1B visa. Whether you're a software engineer, a data analyst, an accountant, or any other professional, these changes apply to you. Here's what's changing and why you need to pay extremely close attention. The random lottery system is gone. Yes, you heard that right. For years, everyone had an equal chance of being selected in the H-1B lottery, but that's over. USCIS has replaced the random selection process with something called a wage-weighted selection system. This means your chances of getting selected now depend entirely on how much money your employer is willing to pay you. The days of every candidate having equal odds are finished. Let me break this down in simple terms because this is absolutely critical. Under the new system, registrations are entered into a weighted selection pool where the number of lottery entries you receive is tied to your prevailing wage level. The Department of Labor has 4 wage levels, and each level now gives you a different number of entries in the lottery. If you're offered a level 1 wage, which is entry level, you get only 1 entry in the lottery. If you're offered a level 2 wage, which means you're fully qualified, you get 2 entries. Level 3 wage for senior positions gives you 3 entries, and level 4 wage for leadership or expert positions gives you 4 entries in the lottery. Do you understand what this means for you? If you're competing against someone who's being offered a level 4 wage and you're only at level 1, they have 4 times the chance of being selected compared to you. According to the Department of Homeland Security's own estimates, the probability of being selected for a level 1 beneficiary is only 15.29%. For level 2, it jumps to 30.58%. Level 3 goes up to 45.87%, and level 4 candidates have a 61.16% chance of selection. These aren't small differences. These are massive gaps that will determine who gets to work in America and who doesn't. This is a massive change that's going to affect who gets selected and who doesn't. If you're a recent graduate or someone just starting your career, your chances just got significantly harder. If you're an experienced professional with higher qualifications, your odds just improved dramatically. But here's the thing, you need to understand exactly where you fall in this system, because that determines your entire strategy. You can't just hope for the best anymore. You need to calculate your actual chances and plan accordingly. Now, let me tell you about the registration requirements because these have changed too. And if your employer gets this wrong, you're done. When employers register you for the H-1B lottery starting March 4, they must now provide much more detailed information than before. They need to include your exact offered wage or salary, the applicable Department of Labor prevailing wage level, your standard occupational code, and all your work locations. This information wasn't required before, but now it's mandatory, and it has to be accurate. There's no room for errors or estimates. Here's where it gets even more serious. USCIS is going to verify all of this information, and if they find out that your employer inflated your wage level just to improve your chances of selection, your petition can be denied or even revoked after approval. The government is watching for fraud, and they're not playing games. They have access to databases from the Department of Labor, the Social Security Administration, and the IRS, so they can cross-check everything your employer claims. This is data sharing at a level we haven't seen before in the H-1B program. Pay close attention to this part because this is where people are going to make costly mistakes. If multiple employers register you for the H-1B lottery, which can happen if you have job offers from different companies, you will be entered into the lottery at the lowest wage level among all those registrations. Let me repeat that because it's so important. Even if one employer offers you a level 4 wage and another offers you a level 2 wage, you'll be entered at level 2. This means you need to be extremely strategic about which employers register you and at what wage levels. Having more registrations doesn't help if they're at different wage levels. The registration fee itself remains at $215 per registration, which your employer must pay through a USCIS online account. This fee is non-refundable, so even if you're not selected in the lottery, that money is gone. For employers registering multiple candidates, these fees add up quickly, but it's a necessary cost of participating in the H-1B cap process. Quick question before we continue. Are you getting value from this information? Because if you are, I need you to do something right now. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We have over 15,000 immigrants in our community who stay informed every single day, and they're the ones who don't miss critical deadlines or important changes. Drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what visa category you're in. Let's build this community together, because when we stay informed together, we all succeed. Now let's talk about something that's going to shock you. On top of all these lottery changes, there's a new $100,000 fee that could apply to your H-1B petition. Yes, you heard that correctly. $100,000. This fee comes from a presidential proclamation issued in September 2025, and it's going to completely change the game for who can afford to hire H-1B workers. This is not a typo, and this is not a rumor. This is official policy that's already in effect. Here's how this fee works, and you need to understand this perfectly because it could determine whether you can even use your H-1B if you win the lottery. The $100,000 fee applies to new H-1B petitions filed for beneficiaries who are outside the United States and need to get their visa at a U.S. consulate abroad. If you're currently in the United States and your employer can file a change of status petition for you, this fee does not apply. But if you're abroad or if you're in the U.S. but cannot maintain valid status for any reason, boom, that's $100,000 your employer has to pay on top of all the other fees. Let me paint you a picture of what this means in real terms. If you're an F1 student currently in the United States on optional practical training, you're in luck. Your employer can file a change of status petition for you, and they won't have to pay the $100,000 fee. But if you're outside the United States, maybe you're still finishing your degree abroad, or you're working in your home country, your employer will need to pay that massive fee to bring you to the US. This is going to make international candidates significantly less attractive to employers unless they're truly exceptional and bring skills that are absolutely irreplaceable. And here's the part nobody is talking about. Even if you're in the United States right now, if USCIS determines that you violated your status at any point, they can deny your change of status request. When that happens, you'll need consular processing to get your visa, which means your employer suddenly has to pay that $100,000 fee or apply for a national interest exception, which is extremely difficult to get. This is why maintaining your legal status is absolutely critical right now. One small mistake, one day of unauthorized work, one technical violation could trigger this massive fee. Let me tell you what you need to do immediately to prepare for this registration period. First, if you're currently on F1 optional practical training or STEM OPT, you need to make absolutely sure your status is valid and you haven't violated any rules. Check your I-20, verify your work authorization dates, and make sure you're working within the terms of your OPT. Any violation, even a small one, could disqualify you from change of status and trigger that $100,000 fee. Go to your international student office and have them review your records right now. Second, you need to talk to your employer right now about your wage level. Ask them what Department of Labor wage level corresponds to your offered salary for your specific occupation and work location. Don't wait until the registration period opens. This conversation needs to happen now because if your employer hasn't done this analysis, they might register you at the wrong level, which could get your petition denied later. Be proactive about this. Don't assume your employer knows what they're doing. Third, gather all your documentation right now. You need your degree certificates, transcripts, your resume, detailed job description, and proof of your qualifications. Even though this documentation isn't required at the registration stage, once your employer gets selected in the lottery, they'll have only 90 days to file your complete H-1B petition. If you wait until after selection to gather documents, you'll be scrambling and you might miss the deadline. Get organized now while you have time. Fourth, understand your timeline. The registration period opens at noon Eastern Time on March 4th, 2026, and closes at noon Eastern Time on March 19th, 2026. Your employer must register during this period. There's no extension. There's no grace period. If they miss this window, you're done for this year. You'll have to wait another entire year to try again. USCIS expects to notify selected registrations by March 31st, 2026, and then employers have until June 30th, 2026, to file complete petitions for selected candidates. Every one of these dates is critical. Let me tell you about the common mistakes that are going to trip people up this year, and if you make any of these mistakes, you could lose everything. Mistake number 1 is assuming your employer knows about all these changes. Many employers, especially smaller companies, have no idea about the wage-weighted system or the $100,000 fee. You cannot assume they're informed. You need to proactively share information with your employer or make sure they're working with an experienced immigration attorney who specializes in H-1B cases. Mistake number 2 is not verifying your wage level before registration. I'm seeing people who think they're at a level 3 wage when they're actually at level 2 or even level 1. This matters enormously because it determines your selection odds. You need to look up the Department of Labor's Occupational Employment and Wage Statistics database for your specific occupation and geographic area. Don't guess. Don't estimate. Get the exact numbers and verify them multiple times. Mistake number 3 is having multiple employers register you without coordinating wage levels. Remember what I told you earlier. If multiple employers register you, you get entered at the lowest wage level. If you have 2 potential employers, make sure they're both offering you similar wage levels, or choose to have only the employer with the highest wage level register you. More registrations don't help if they hurt your wage level classification. Mistake number 4 is not maintaining status properly if you're currently in the United States. Any gap in your status, any unauthorized employment, any violation of your visa terms can disqualify you from change of status and trigger that $100,000 fee. Be absolutely meticulous about following every single rule of your current status. Check your I-94, know your expiration dates, and never let your status lapse even for one day. Mistake number 5 is failing to understand how the master's cap works under the new system. If you have a U.S. master's degree or higher, you get entered into the lottery twice. First, you're entered into the regular cap pool with everyone else. If you're not selected there, you're then entered into the advanced degree cap pool for an additional 20,000 visas. Under the wage-weighted system, your multiple entries based on wage level apply to both lottery rounds. So if you have a master's degree and a level 4 wage, you get 4 entries in the regular cap and 4 entries in the advanced degree cap. This gives you significantly better odds than someone with just a bachelor's degree. Before we move forward, let me share something with you. Last month, I spoke to an immigration attorney who told me about 3 students who lost their H-1B opportunity because they didn't know about a status violation until it was too late. Their employers refused to pay the $100,000 fee, and these students had to leave the country. Their dreams were shattered because of information they didn't have. If you're not subscribed to channels like ours that give you daily updates, you could be next. Hit that subscribe button right now and make sure notifications are turned on. This could literally save your American dream. Now let's talk about what happens after the lottery. If you're one of the lucky ones who gets selected, your employer has 90 days to file your complete H-1B petition with USCIS. This is where having all your documentation ready becomes critical. Your employer needs to submit a certified labor condition application from the Department of Labor, proof that your position qualifies as a specialty occupation, evidence of your qualifications, including degree evaluations if your degree is from outside the U.S., and documentation supporting the wage level that was indicated in your registration. USCIS is going to scrutinize these petitions more carefully than ever before because of the new wage-weighted system. They're looking for any discrepancies between what was registered and what's in the actual petition. If your employer registered you at level 3, but the petition shows a level 2 wage, that's a problem. If the job duties in your petition don't match the wage level that was claimed, that's a denial. The documentation has to be perfect, and every single claim needs to be backed up with solid evidence. Immigration officers reviewing H-1B petitions now have enhanced training on the wage-weighted system. They're specifically looking for cases where employers might have manipulated wage levels to game the system. They'll review your actual salary against prevailing wage data. They'll examine whether your job duties actually require the level of expertise claimed. They'll verify that your qualifications match the position requirements. This level of scrutiny is unprecedented. Let me tell you what to expect in terms of processing times, because this affects your planning. Standard H-1B processing typically takes 3 to 6 months after the petition is filed. However, your employer can pay for premium processing, which guarantees a decision within 15 business days. Premium processing costs $2,500. And honestly, if your employer is serious about hiring you, they should be willing to pay for this. It gives you certainty and allows you to plan your life instead of waiting months in uncertainty. Here's something else you need to know. Even if your H-1B petition is approved, you cannot start working in H-1B status until October 1st, 2026. That's the start date for fiscal year 2027. If you're currently on F1 OPT and your OPT expires before October 1, you have a problem. You need to make sure you have a cap gap extension, which allows F1 students to continue working between the time their OPT expires and October 1, when their H-1B status begins. Talk to your international student advisor about this immediately, because the cap gap extension doesn't happen automatically in all situations. If you're outside the United States and you win the lottery and your petition gets approved, you'll need to schedule a visa interview at a U.S. consulate. This is where that $100,000 fee comes into play. Your employer must pay it before the consulate can issue your visa. Consulate wait times vary dramatically by country. In some countries, you might get an appointment within a few weeks. In others, you could be waiting several months. Check the wait times for your home country right now so you know what to expect and can plan accordingly. During your consular interview, officers are going to ask detailed questions about your job, your qualifications, and your employer. They have access to your entire petition package. They can see what wage level was claimed in your registration. They're going to verify that everything matches up. Be prepared to explain your job duties, why you're qualified, and why your employer needs to hire you specifically. Don't go into that interview unprepared. Let me tell you about some special situations that people often ask about. If you've already been counted against the H-1B cap in a previous year, you might be cap exempt. This means if you previously held H-1B status or had an approved H-1B petition, you might not need to go through the lottery at all when changing employers. However, there are specific rules about timing and whether you maintained H-1B status continuously. You need to consult with an immigration attorney to confirm your cap-exempt eligibility because the rules are complex. If you're working for a cap-exempt employer right now, such as a university, affiliated nonprofit, or government research organization, you don't need to participate in the lottery. But if you want to move to a for-profit company, you'll likely become cap subject and need to enter the lottery. Plan this transition carefully because once you leave cap-exempt employment, you lose that advantage. Some people strategically work for universities first to get their H-1B cap-exempt status before transitioning to private sector jobs. If you're on a dependent visa like H-4 or L-2 with work authorization, you might be considering applying for your own H-1B. Be aware that once you switch to H-1B status, you lose your dependent status benefits. If you're on H-4 EAD and your spouse's H-1B gets denied or revoked, you both lose status. Think through these scenarios carefully before making changes. Join our community of informed immigrants who don't leave their future to chance. Subscribe now and be part of a group that stays ahead of every policy change, every deadline, and every opportunity. Your success in America depends on the information you have, and we're here to make sure you never miss anything critical. We post updates every single day covering all visa categories, policy changes, and practical advice that you can use immediately. Looking ahead, you need to understand that immigration policy is changing rapidly, and the H-1B program is under more scrutiny than ever before. The Trump administration has made it clear that they want to prioritize higher-skilled, higher-paid workers and reduce what they see as abuse of the system. This means we can expect more changes in the coming months and years. The wage-weighted system and the $100,000 fee are just the beginning of what could be a complete transformation of how America handles skilled immigration. There are discussions about further restrictions on H-1B workers, including potential limitations on which companies can sponsor H-1B visas based on their business model. Some proposals would require employers to prove they conducted extensive recruitment efforts to find American workers before sponsoring foreign nationals. Other proposals would narrow the definition of specialty occupation to exclude certain types of positions that currently qualify. None of this is final yet, but you need to be aware that the landscape is shifting dramatically. The government is also discussing changes to H-1B extensions and renewals. There's talk of limiting the total time someone can remain on H-1B status, even if they're waiting for a green card. There are proposals to eliminate or modify the AC-21 provision that allows H-1B extensions beyond 6 years for people in the green card process. These changes could affect people who are already on H-1B status, not just new applicants. This is exactly why staying informed is not optional anymore. It's absolutely mandatory if you want to succeed in navigating the U.S. immigration system. Every day that you're not subscribed to reliable sources of immigration information is a day you're putting your future at risk. We're going to continue covering every single development in the H-1B program and all other visa categories, so make sure you're subscribed and you're getting our updates delivered to you immediately. Let me summarize the 3 most important things you need to remember from this video. Number 1, the H-1B lottery is now wage-weighted, which means your salary and wage level directly determine your chances of selection. Make sure you and your employer understand exactly what wage level applies to your position, and don't leave this to chance. Get the Department of Labor wage data, calculate your level precisely, and verify it with an immigration attorney if possible. Number 2, there's a $100,000 fee for beneficiaries who need consular processing, so maintaining your status in the United States and qualifying for change of status is more important than ever. Any status violation could cost you or your employer a massive amount of money. Be meticulous about following all visa rules and never take shortcuts that could jeopardize your status. Number 3, registration opens March 4 and closes March 19, 2026, and there are no extensions. So mark your calendar right now and make sure your employer is ready. Selection notifications come by March 31, and then you have until June 30 to file complete petitions. These deadlines are firm, and missing any of them means losing your opportunity for an entire year. The registration window is coming up fast, and if you're not prepared, you're going to miss your shot. This is your American dream we're talking about. This is your career, your future, your life. Don't treat it casually. Get serious about understanding these rules, work with qualified immigration professionals, and make sure every single detail is handled correctly. The stakes have never been higher. Subscribe if you haven't already, because tomorrow we could be announcing another major policy change that affects you. Share this video with anyone who's planning to apply for an H-1B visa this year. They need this information just as much as you do, and sharing could literally change someone's life. Post it in your university groups, share it with your colleagues, send it to anyone who's considering working in the United States. Stay informed, stay compliant, and remember, your dream is possible if you follow the rules. We're here to help you every step of the way. Don't face this complicated system alone. Be part of our community. Stay updated daily and give yourself the best possible chance of success. The path to working in America has never been more challenging, but it's still possible for those who are informed and prepared. This is US Visa Info, keeping you updated every single day. Good luck with your H-1B registration, and I'll see you in the next video with more critical immigration updates you cannot afford to miss.